When Rodney and I first started raised bed gardening, we did a lot of research on the best methods for beginners. And upon our findings, we discovered a method called square foot gardening. If you don't know, square foot gardening is the process of dividing your growing area into small sections that are usually 1 foot in size. This creates a certain number of blocks in your raised bed or your garden, and in each block, you can plant a certain amount of plants depending on the plant. So, for example, with carrots, you're able to plant 16 per square foot. And for something like lettuce, if it's heading lettuce, you're only able to plant one. And to make things even easier, there are lots of square foot gardening plant guides that list what fruit or vegetable you're planting, and it will have the amount that you can plant. So I'll link in the description which one that I like to use. We are going to take that square foot gardening method and implement it into our process for starting a new raised bed or a new garden. And that process, I've broken it down into 3 steps, which are plan, design, and sow. To create a plan, and you want to do this by selecting which seeds you want to get started right now. And the seeds you're going to select is going to depend on your growing zone and what season you are in. So my growing zone is zone 8, and since it is February, I am able to sow my cool season vegetables such as carrots, radishes, turnips, beets, lettuce, Swiss chard, collards. A lot of those cool season things can be indirect sown and direct sown right now, which is what we're going to be focusing on. After we narrow down which seeds that we want to start, we need to figure out how many square foot blocks we want to dedicate to each plant. And we are actually going to be doing this in step 2, which is design. The design stage involves drawing your square foot plant on paper, or you can do it digitally. I actually prefer paper as my medium of choice just because I change my mind a lot and it's just easier for me to erase and redraw it back. I like to use a sketch and design printable that I've created. It just makes it easier for me to design my new garden bed layout. If you'd like to use this printable also, you can find it on our blog and I will link it in the description. When designing my garden bed, I take the graph paper and I'm going to sketch the size of the raised bed that I will be sowing into. And this particular bed is 3 by 6. So in a 3 by 6 bed, there are 18 square foot blocks. So I'm going to make sure that I am drawing those 18 blocks on my design. After my 3 by 6 raised bed is on paper, I'm going to take the seeds that I gathered from my planting process and we're going to see how many blocks that we want to dedicate per block. And this is going to depend on the seeds that are your favorites, you probably want to plant more of. Something that you probably sowing for the first time, you might want to just dedicate 1 block. So for us, we really like carrots, so we ended up doing 5 blocks of carrots on our plan. And I like to label what we are planting in the block and the amount, just so I remember when it comes time to sowing. And on the notes paper on the sketch and design template, I will write the variety just so I remember. And for the carrots, we ended up doing 3 of the scarlet mantis, and we ended up doing 2 blocks of the cosmic purple. So I'm just writing that down on my paper just to help me. And I just repeat that same process for the remaining vegetables, writing the name of the vegetable and how many goes per block, and then writing the name of the vegetable, the variety, and how many goes per block on my notes paper. Now that we have our seeds and our design, we can take that out into the garden and plant up our raised bed. Before we plant out our seeds, we like to make sure that our raised bed is topped off with some fresh compost. And we also like to work in a slow release fertilizer prior to planting. You can even add in the compost and fertilizer a few weeks prior to planting in your growing space, just so it gives the nutrients time to settle into the soil. So since we are doing the square foot gardening method, I'd like to use a product called the Seeding Square. I like using this template because it is the size of a square foot and has color-coded spacing that acts as a planting guide when creating your holes. The template has spacings for 16, 9, 4, and 1. To use, you're going to press the template into the soil, poke the hole that will correspond with the amount of seeds that you need per square, and then you're going to seed it.
The first section will be carrots, so we're gonna make the suppression all throughout the dirt. So just press it down a little bit, and then this is the carrots. So I'm gonna go ahead and poke 16 holes with a little dibbler. And these carrots should be about 1/8 inch deep. The next section, this whole first section will be just carrots. Because we have these braces at these corners of the raised bed, this is not going to be a true square, so we're just going to have to poke some extra holes right here. Do about the same. Holes are made, and now I'm going in with the seeds. Carrots are in, and I will be repeating the process for the rest of the bed.
And that is all. We repeated that same process throughout the entire garden bed. And if you don't have the template or don't want to buy it, you can mark out your square feet spaces by using string. I've seen that done a lot and it also works. Hopefully, showing you our 3-step process for designing a raised bed garden helps you get started if you are a beginner. It can definitely be intimidating. We were intimidated when we first started, but once we created this formula for us, it just became that much easier. And you can apply this to not only a raised bed garden, but a container garden, a in-ground growing space. It's pretty much the same method throughout. And if you are interested in using the Sketch and Design printable, it can be downloaded from our website. And we also have a blog post that I've written that corresponds with this video if you prefer to read. And if you want to see how our greenhouse ceilings are doing, make sure to watch this update video. We'll see you there.